let's see. I've got bunnies. I've got foxes. I'm going to talk about Zootopia. My channel is a rabbit, and I need one other thing. What was the other thing that I needed? Feels like it goes on my head. Ears. Oh, yeah. Today we're going to talk about Zootopia. Yeah, okay, I love Zootopia. Just straight up, I love Zootopia. I think it's an amazing movie. I love its like social commentary on different things. So, oh god, I love this movie. So, Zootopia is of course the next movie that we're going to talk about. After that, it will be Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then Moana, or no, it's Moana, and then Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then Frozen 2, and then Raya and the Last Dragon, I believe. Zootopia. Zootopia came out in 2016, and it is, of course, a big, fun, Disney legacy movie of let's put animals in human clothes and have them act like humans. And I love it. I love that concept. I've loved that concept all the way since Robin Hood. I love that. It's like, we get animals dressed up as humans. Why is this a bad thing? And I would say that they're kind of only more on the anthropomorphic level in the fact that they have like human level intelligence and that they like, walk around and act like humans. They still have like certain animal instincts, of course, that go along with it. Like, bunnies, their ears, of course, still have a very extremely good hearing. Foxes are very, not shifty or anything like that, because that's kind of basically what the whole movie is about, is not stereotyping them. But, foxes, can be very windy and very fast on their feet and stuff like that. Technically, side note, but it still applies. Has anybody ever heard a fox, like, howl or whatever? Because several months ago, there must have been a fox in our neighborhood, and I don't know if it was just, like, specifically right near our backyard or whatever, but Rainy, of course, whenever he would see it, and at night or whatever, he would start barking at it. And, like, it sounded like this weird screaming noise. And no, I'm not going to do that stupid video for what does the fox say, because I don't care about that video. But it just sounds like something is screaming and killing something at the same time. It sounds like a dying cat, and I'm just like, that is not a good sound to make, although that would have been very interesting to see them put that in the movie, but they didn't. So, on to the actual story of the movie. So, of course, the movie opens on, this kind of monologue about predators and prey and, having to, deal with their true nature back when, all predators and prey were enemies of each other, for the most part. And, and then it cuts to, it's a school play, of course, with, a little bunny dressed up as the rabbit and, a little, like, I think it's supposed to be like a little leopard or cheetah dressed up as like a tiger or something. And, the little bunny, pretends to die and she's got, like, I love how they just kind of drag out this gag of just like, oh god, ribbons of streamers of like blood coming out. And then it shifts to, ketchup again and again and again. Just like more ketchup all over the place. And then we cut to the audience and we see these bunny parrots that are just like filming it. And the dad is taking a second and the mother is just like, oh god, why? And we cut back to the stage and it's still like the little bunny and everything. And I love that. I love the opening of that setup. It's so funny. And, and then of course it's revealed, but, we've evolved past that and, evolved from vicious predator and meek prey. And then, we get the boxes and we get the costume change and we get like the little angel sheep thing that comes through. And it's like, now we're like, now we're evolved and we've evolved past those horrible instincts of, wanting to kill each other and everything. And, and the bunny and the sheep is just like, now we can all grow up to be whatever we want. I can be an astronaut. And the leopard and the little leopard is like, I don't have to hunt for my food. I can hunt for tax deductions and be an actuary. And he has like a little suit. And then, of course, the bunny is like, and I can be a cop. I can be a bunny cop. I can be, I can be a police officer and everything. And she like, I love this bunny. She's so funny. I love Judy. Bunny. Um, and it's just, I just love her. And, I love her attitude even as a little kid. And she's just like, and I will be a cop. And, some 200 miles away is, the city of Zootopia where, anyone can be anything. And I love that they keep cutting to, like, the other kid that's, like, off to the side, that's, like, doing the music and, like, the sound effects. And I just think it's so funny. I love that. It's like, kid, good kid, funny kid. got a future in the sound effects business there, buddy. And and then we cut to after the play, and we see the little bunny with her parents, and of course we learn her name's Judy Hopps, and she is, it's like this county fair or whatever that's going on, or like school presentation day or whatever, where like the kids put on a performance. And like her parents are like carrot farmers. Well, that's literally what they are, carrot farmers. And she's like, well, I just want to be a cop. And she's just like, so happy about that concept. And her parents are just like, it's okay to have dreams just as long as you don't believe in them too much. And, where, complacency is helpful. And just, it's like all this other stuff that you don't normally hear from like Disney parents of, usually from the Disney parents, barring very extreme circumstances. Like Moana's father was wanting to protect her from going out beyond the reef, of course, which will be the next movie. We have, her parents are just like the opposite, or just like most Disney parents are just like, yeah, go out and achieve your dreams. You can do anything. Her parents, come be on the carrot farm. You and your, 178 brothers and sisters. I don't remember what it was. And like the parents would try to talk her out of it, and then she just wanders off because she sees this bully fox that lives in their, that is part of in their, very small town of Bunnyboro. And she sees him, picking on some of her friends or so, who's like there's like 2 sheep and like, I don't remember what the other one was. There's like 2 sheep and something else, maybe another bunny. I remember we have the fox there, Gideon Gray, and he is, bullying them and like taking their tickets that they won and everything so he can have them. And then, Judy comes over and like stands up to him, and he like, he like attacks her, and he ends up, scratching her across her face and everything, probably leaving scars there in all honesty. I mean, her fur will grow back over it, but it'll be slightly scarred. And he, was like, I'm, like, she'll, you'll never be more than a dumb bunny. You can't be a police officer. Why even try? Blah, 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 like going at her like that. And then he walks off and everything. And it's revealed that, when she was extremely close to him, when he was, trying to intimidate her, she stole the tickets back and she gives them back to her friends. And she goes like, yeah, well, I got your tickets back, and he is right about one thing. I don't know when to quit. And she's just like, yep, I'm going to be a police officer. Cut to 15 years later. She is now training to become a ZPPD, Zootopia Police Department. ZTPD, I think, Zootopia Police Department. And, she's the smallest recruit there. She's the only one that's not either like a big predator like the polar bears, or there's a rhino who's not really a predator, but there's the bigger animals. And, like they're not as, the smaller animals. The rhinos usually have the ability to defend themselves. I think we see like an elephant there at some point. There's like some other, big animals that are there. And, the trainer is this polar bear and everything. She's explaining, Zootopia has like all these different, areas in it where all the different creatures live, different, environmental zones and everything like that. So, like Sahara Square and Tundra Town and Little Rodentia and the Rainforest District. And like she's pushing in the pushing the recruits through, all of these different areas, all these different training exercises that are there to help them, learn how to be able to maneuver in town. In Zootopia, there's like a sand pit with like a windstorm going on. There's like, an ice climbing area. And, there's, like a, climbing through like, the trees, quote unquote, and like Judy has to, Judy keeps failing again and again and again because she's so much smaller than the other ones. and, there's like fighting and everything, and she keeps getting, knocked down and everything. And, she just keeps pushing herself again and again and again because, of course, she doesn't know when to quit. And she keeps going and she keeps going, and she gets to the point where she is then the top of her class. She's, able to, get through the Sahara area much better. She can, figures out how to get over the ice wall by like, jumping around over on it from like one person to the next to get over the top of it. And like, not like using them literally as stepping stones, but just using what's in front of her to get over where she is. And, she gets strong, gets better at like being able to use like certain fighters' inertia against them and stuff like that, which is what we see her doing. My hair is getting a little bit messed up because of this. There we go. And, the polar bear is much more impressed. And then, she's the top of her class, there's this like mammal inclusion project that's going on in Zootopia with like the police department or so. And, Judy is, the first bunny to graduate from the Zootopia Police Department Academy. And she gets, recognized by the mayor, Lionheart, and, at like the graduation ceremony. And, there's the assistant mayor, Bellwether, is there, of course. And, Judy's, the first bunny to be able to have that, graduate from this, and she's also the top of her class. And then, we have the moment where she's saying goodbye to her parents at like the train station just outside of their little town after she's finished all of her training and everything and graduated. And her parents were very happy for her at the graduation, but they're just like, they're very concerned about their daughter because she's going to a big city, and there's lots of predator and prey animals all over the place, big animals. There's not as many huge animals in their area. And, there's mostly like rabbits and foxes and sheep. And I think we see like a few other smaller animals all over the place in that area, like pigs and some other things that are more like farm or country animals. We don't really see like, barring when she's at the police academy in the beginning of the movie, we don't really see any, larger predator animals or larger animals like elephants or, rhinos, as I mentioned, or hippos, that are more, they're not predator animals, but they're much higher on the food chain than like you would assume like a bunny would be, because like they can squish the bunny or throw the bunny or lay on the bunny or step on the bunny type of thing. And her parents are just, they're proud of her, but they're just like, we just, please be careful, please don't get hurt, please be careful type of thing over and over again, overprotective, paranoid parents in that regard. And I don't remember if it's ever stated if Judy is the oldest of their children, or if she's just like somewhere in the middle area. I don't know exactly. We see some of her other brothers and sisters in the background, but we don't really see too many. We don't get like names on them as far as I'm aware, unless they're like named in like some other side thing that I'm not aware of. Or named in like concept art. I mean, like her parents are Stu Hops and Bonnie Hops, which adorable, cute. And they try to give her all these like fox repellent things, like fox, air horn repellent, fox, taser, fox, just spray repellent type of a thing. And she just takes the spray repellent just to make them stop. And then she leaves. And then, of course, we get the fun song of, Try Everything, where you see, like, the list of, like, all the different, music, ones that are in this. And I think I do have listed, like, some of the other pun names that we have for either, the stores or the brands or some of the other music things. And I'll go over them at the end of the movie, at the end of the video. And, so she's on her way there, and we get all these other shots of Zootopia and everything through Judy's eyes. And, we see like Sahara Square and the Sahara area. We see the tundra area. We see the rainforest area. We see like the city center area. And then, of course, she's, getting out of the train and she's walking around and she's seeing all this other stuff. And, all these animals that are all over the place, It's all mammals. We don't ever see any birds or reptiles or fish in this area or in this setup of the world. But it's just like all over the place, all these different sizes of animals and everything, like so many different things that all work directly for them. Like, for like the little hamster gerbil type creatures, or their lemmings, I don't remember exactly. But, they have like the inner tube system that goes all over the place. And like, there's really high things for the giraffe. And there's, there's like 3 different size doors for different things all over the place. And I love it. And she's just like jumping all, and she's just like so happy and everything. And she gets to her new apartment in the big city, and it's just this little tiny dinky apartment that's probably maybe not even as big as this room. Um, and you know, she has two very loud neighbors, and that are like, I think they're I don't remember what they're. Well, I talk about them a little bit later in regards to the character descriptions, but they're both like I wanted to say elk, not like elk from North America, but like gazelle or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Um, and she's just like so happy, and then of course she goes for her first day on the job at the Zootopia Police Department. And she said, and she's like so hyped and everything. And she meets one of the other police officers who like was at the front desk. And he's like this cheetah police officer that has kind of lost his way because he really likes donuts. And his name is Benjamin Clawhauser. And he is so funny and adorable. And, they're talking and everything. And, he's like, you're so cute. And she's like, only another bunny can call another bunny cute. Sorry. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, and he's just, so apologetic, but he's like so nice and friendly and everything. And like, he loves donuts. And then he's like, you have to go to the bullpen. It's over there. And, sends her on her way. And she's like the smallest one in there. Like all of them are like these huge animals. And, we get introduced to the chief of police, Chief Bogo, who is this giant water buffalo. And voiced amazingly by Idris Elba. And, he doesn't care that much that, it's like, I have this new bunny on my force. You're here because the mayor put you here as like a token bunny. And I don't care. So I'm just going to give you like the lowest thing that you can do. And, we see all the other big prey animals. And I love the joke of like, we have to address the elephant in the room. Happy birthday, friend. Scene. And it's like a giant elephant. And it's her birthday and everything. And, all this other stuff. And, we find out about these, 14 missing mammals all over the place, or 13 or whatever different missing mammals all over the place, and they can't figure out where they are. And, he then gives Judy parking meter duty. She has to, write, so many tickets and everything and go out and, for her it's demeaning. And of course, because she was like the best in her class and everything. And, he's like, I don't care. The bear put you here. I'm still the one in charge of you. And he, she goes off and she, is going to do like the parking meters to the best of her ability, of course, because she's like, oh, if I prove myself, then, then I'll get a better chance of actually getting to be a part of this, of the police force. And she heads off and she gets, does, 200 tickets before noon. And, then she sees this fox. And, she's, it's a little bit of like her, most of her interactions with foxes haven't been the best. And she watches him go into this, ice cream parlor that is like an elephant ice cream parlor, or like a giant mammal ice cream parlor. And we see the elephants scooping the ice cream with their trunks without any gloves on. And like, I'm just like, instantly I'm like, ew. Even before COVID, I was like, ew. That's gross. The ears are going to come off now. I knew I wasn't going to wear them the whole time. We'll put them over here. There you go, full pics. And, she's ready to, pull, take the fox out of there if he starts causing a problem, because the elephant owner or whatever is like, no, we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. And he's, refusing to serve, give the fox anything and sell him anything and all that stuff. And, Judy, and he's just like, I just want to buy my son a jumbo pop type of thing. And so we see this little tiny fox. It looks like a little small child fox. And Judy is like, oh, and she, she basically falls for the gag, of course, because we know, from watching the movie already, from watching the movie so many times, it's just like, nope, you're being played. You're being played. And, the fox basically, plays on her, gets her to, make the guy give give them the jumbo pop, and then she pays for it because he tricks her into that. And then, of course, she, the little kid fox is like in an elephant costume, and it's like he wants to be an elephant when he grows up, and she's like, oh, and she's just like so happy and everything, and like having fun with him. And then they go on their way, and then she's going and filling out different more parking tickets and everything like that. And then she sees the little one again, and then she sees the fox on top of a building melting the popsicle into jars, and then the kid fox taking them into into a van, and then she follows the van, and she then follows it around, and she sees them in Tundra Down, like, putting paw prints in the snow, and then, filling all of the paw prints in with, the different melted ice from, the melted popsicle pieces, and then, turning them into, popsicles themselves, and then they go and sell the popsicles and such to, like, I think they're like lemmings or something. I don't remember exactly, but they get a bunch of money from that, and then they take all of the sticks from that and take them to a construction area and like little rodentia and give them to them as, construction supplies. Hopefully they disinfected them, and they split the money, and then the baby fox walks off, and he's actually like, he has this like very deep voice, and I can't do the voice the right way. And then, Judy figures that that they lied to her, and then, she like confronts the fox, and, his Nick Wilde, and she confronts him and everything, and he explains, oh, I've been doing this for a long time, and let me guess, you had big dreams of coming to the Zootopia and, making things better and all this other stuff, and, it's like, you got conned, honey, it's called a hustle, type of thing. And, Judy is just kind of, she's very much kind of degraded at this point in time because, of course, first she ends up landing in, after her and Nick have this big, conversation of her confronting him and everything. And she then ends up getting stuck in like cement, and then she has to get drilled out of the cement. And it was not a very good day. And she, she gets back to her apartment, and her, her parents call, and like it's a video call, and they see that she's still wearing the meter maid vest, and they're just like, oh, thank God she's a meter maid, she's not a real cop, and like all that other stuff. And then like we hear the very loud neighbors who are just like, we're loud and we're obnoxious, and we're not sorry for it type of thing. I've had those neighbors. They're not fun. No, they're not. And like, Judy just feels so bad, and like we get running commentary from her neighbors that it's just funny. And of course, the next day she's still on, parking meter duty, and she's, not as good of a day to start out with. Unfortunately, she keeps getting, harassed by the people that get the parking tickets and everything like that. It's just like, it was 30 seconds, and like, I was on my way back to the car, and you still gave me the ticket, and like all this other stuff. And so Judy is just not having a good day. And then she ends up, there's a flower store that she's parked in front of, and it gets robbed, and we get this pig coming out and shouting at her. It's like, get that weasel, he's stealing my merchandise. And she chases after the weasel. And I'll go over, there's a connection between her and the pig later, when I get to casting, just because it's funny. And she's running after the weasel, and running through like little rodentia and everything that is just this little tiny like mouse and shrew, and like the tiny little area where like there's like these really tiny apartment buildings that like probably like a whole block of them would like fit on my bed type of thing, and they're just like so small. And she's like running through there and like chasing the weasel, and she like, there's like this donut that rolls around, and she catches the donut and like saves this like little bitty shrew from getting crushed by the donut, and it's adorable, and like compliments her. It's like, I like your hair, thank you. And goes off, and she catches the weasel, and and then she goes back to the police department, and then she gets yelled at by Chief Bogo because he's like, you left your post, you caused a scurry, which is, I guess, their version of like causing a riot in regards to that, and all over, moldy onions. It's like, those are, whatever, insert very long name of, whatever type of plant they actually are. And, and he's like, yeah. I understand that you have like all these big dreams and everything like that, but just let it go. Which I love those. I love the ones where they throw references to other movies, and that is very much literally directly to the people of just let it go, about Frozen, of course. And then, we have one of the wife of one of the missing, mammals, Mrs. Otterton, is there, and she like bursts into the office, and she's just like, please, Chief Bogo, you have to find my husband for me and for my kids. And he's been missing for 10 days, and she's distraught, and I don't blame her at all. And like Judy just like volunteers to take over, take on that part of the case. And Mrs. Otterton is just like so happy. And then like Chief Bogo is like being very polite to Mrs. Otterton, but it's just like you see him in the background going, "Oh God, help! Did not take enough pain. I did not take enough migraine pills to deal with this rabbit right now. Please help." Um, and he like is like very polite to Mrs. Otterton and like has her just go wait outside and we'll be back with you in a moment. And then he tells Judy, "You're going to tell her that you were fired and that you're nothing but a glorified meter maid." And then of course we happen to have Assistant Male Bellwether there. That is just like, "Oh, I told I just texted the mayor about Judy taking on the Otterton case and everything, trying to find Mr. Otterton, so Chief Bogo can't really go back on it, and he gives Judy 2 days to find try to see if she can break the case or find Otterton." And she looks at the case file that they have on him, which isn't much, but she finds that he finds this picture of him in the case file, and he's about to he's like actually eating one of the popsicles that Nick makes. So she goes and she finds Nick again the next day, and she basically hustles him. I love how she does this. She basically gets him to admit that he hasn't paid taxes on anything for like so much amount of time. And she like has this recorder carrot pen that she uses, that she records him saying that stuff on, so she can then use that against him and force him to help her. And he gets played, and I love it. And it's like her being the sly bunny and everything instead of being the dumb bunny that he always calls her to be, or at times he calls her that. And he's just like, "Fine, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll help, whatever." He gets forced into it. And she's like, "Okay, you need to help me find this otter." It was like, "Okay, I know everybody. This is the last place I saw him going. And it's this Mystic Springs Oasis." And I love this. This is just one of the funniest scenes in the movie. I love it. And what ends up happening is they go inside and they talk to this yak. And then they find out that it's a nudist club, which I find that so funny because, Nick is like, in Zootopia, anyone can be anything. And these guys, they be naked. And Judy is just like, "Oh my God." Like, she's just like so befuddled by all of this. And like, we have the yak in the background that's just like this hippie type yak that I love. That's like the guy that's like the I don't know if he owns it or if he's just like the front desk manager or something. But he like takes them through and he's just like, "Oh yeah, we know Emmett Otterton. He's a great guy. He's been coming here for, yoga for like 6 years or something like that." And, all this other stuff. And it's just like, "Okay, yeah." And it's just like, "Well, why don't we go and talk to his yoga instructor?" And like, as they're walking through, we see all these other, animals like they're naked and playing volleyball, or like, the bears are scratching their backs on the trees, which I'm pretty sure is a Jungle Book reference because of Baloo. And, the pigs are like wallowing in mud, and like all of them are naked, which of course, we see like this giraffe drinking out of a fountain, and it's like all the animals except for Judy and Nick are like buck naked, which is just so funny because of course, in our minds, we're so used to seeing animals naked all the time. It's like, it's this weird human concept of put clothes on the animals. Like when we do them in like animated series about, insert whatever, DuckTales, Mickey Mouse stuff, non-Disney things, all these other things where it's just like all these different, animals dressed up as humans. It's like we put them in human clothes. They don't usually have animal clothes. And, she's just like, Judy is just like so bewildered, and they get to the elephant, and we get this funny turn on the head where it's like, the yak is just like, "Oh yeah, Nagi's an elephant. She's got a mind like a steel trap. She always remembers everything." And the elephant doesn't know anything, but like the yak, via talking to her, is like giving Judy like so much information that she needs about like, the car that happened to pick him up and what color it was and what make it was, and the license plate number, just like all this other stuff that you wouldn't expect like the yak to remember. And so Judy gets what the information she needs there, and then she needs to run a plate, but she's not in the system yet, so then they have to go to the Department of Mammal Vehicles, which is just honestly my least favorite scene in the movie, just because I mean, like, I've been to the DMV multiple times to, renew licenses, get a new driver's license, get your learner's permit, insert whatever, you know, I had to go there at times, you know, with my mom or with whatever to go and do things. And, you know, our DMV is not nearly as slow as this one because obviously our DMV is not run by sloths. Of course, you know, we get introduced to, you know, Flash, 100-yard dash, as Nick calls him. And, you know, we get like the stupid jokes of, you know, what do you call a 3-hump camel? Pregnant. And, you know, Judy is just so freaking frustrated by how slow everything is. And they do get the plate number that they need and the registration for where it is, but it takes like all day to get it. And they wasted so much time. And then they go to Tundra Town, which is where the vehicle is registered to at original place in Tundra Town. But, you know, it's locked because it's closed and they don't have a warrant. So Nick tries to just like, okay, fine, just give me the pen and I'll be gone because you clearly don't have anything else that you can do. So she throws the pen over the fence. And then he climbs over the fence, and she dug under the fence super fast and like grabbed the pin again because it's like snow everywhere. So she just like dug under the fence with the snow, dug through the snow under the fence and grabbed the pen before Nick could get over and get down to the pen. And he's just like, you were the other side, freaking rabbits. And he's just like so frustrated by that. But like she's like, the thing is, you don't need a warrant if you have probable cause. And I think I saw a pretty shifty character climbing the fence. And, you know, she just, like, you know, plays off of that and everything. And they go and they find the limo and they search through the limo and they find in the back of the limo. And this is, I think, one of the points where Nick starts to realize that, okay, something's a little more serious here than I anticipated. Something here is a bit more, interesting, yes, possibly a bit more dangerous than I had anticipated. Because they see the back of the limo. And there's like claw marks all over the seats, like shredded claw marks on the windows and on the seats and on the floor. And, you know, all this stuff. And like, I don't remember if we see blood, but we do see a lot of like, you know, damage done to the back of the back seat. And I think we see this look where it's like, I think Nick is starting to realize that this is a bit more serious than I anticipated. And, you know, and then of course they figure out whose it was. And he's like, oh my God, this is Mr. Biggs. And he's just like, and Judy's like, who's Mr. Big? And he's like, he's the toughest, kind of, underground mafia boss type thing in Tundra Town. And they end up getting grabbed by, Mr. Biggs, security team who are a bunch of polar bears because, of course, polar bears have very nice suits and they get taken to the estate where, Mr. Big lives. And we get this funny thing of like a different polar bears walking through the door that are continually bigger and bigger. And Judy is just like, is that Mr. Big? No. Is that Mr. Big? No. And then like a really big one comes through. It's like, that has to be Mr. Big. No. And then we get the reveal Mr. Big is this tiny little shrew that just has like this tiny little chair. And of course, this whole setup here is just like a whole reference to, it's just a huge whole reference to, The Godfather, which I have never seen. At some point, I'll probably see it, but I've never seen it. But of course, The Godfather himself is played by Marlon Brando, who is from Nebraska. So I'll claim that happily. I will happily claim that. And, so he's, we see this little shrew and he's literally just, he's kind of doing like, not quite a word for word thing, but it's like, you come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding. I apologize, I can't do the correct accent. But they were just like, and like Nick had known him and he had done something very bad because he sold him a rug made out of a skunk's butt. And like it was just like you just see Nick just getting more and more terrified, and like Judy is trying to explain something, and then Mr. Big is just like, ice them, and it's like they're getting ready to there's like ice underneath the floorboard, so it's like it's like you drop them in the ice and then they like freeze and drown or whatever type of thing, which is quite dark for a children's movie. But then like the daughter comes running in, and it's the same little shrew, of course, that like Judy saved the day before. Or, yesterday, because I say yesterday, this is when she saved her. And I was like, oh my God, Daddy, you're not supposed to ice anybody on my wedding. Oh my God, that's the bunny that saved my life yesterday. Really? Yes. And just like Judy's just like, hi again. I like your dress. Thank you. And she's just adorable. The daughter Shrew is adorable. We get her name later. It's Frou Frou is her name. I don't remember if we ever got that in context of the actual movie or not, but her name is Frou Frou, on the Wikipedia page for it, on the Disneypedia page, and like Mr. Big is like, you saved my daughter. Okay then, I will help you. And he like kisses Judy on the cheeks, which is like, because like he made Nick kiss the ring basically, and he kisses Judy on the cheeks, which is like more of a sign of respect and everything. And Nick is just off to the side like going, what in the world is going on? Why is this happening to me? I did not sign up for this. Is like the look on his face. And then, we cut to the wedding and we see like the little, the rodents dancing and everything, the little shrews dancing and having fun. And like they're on this little tiny table, is like as big as they need for the reception hall. And then there's like all of these polar bears around them, like guarding them and everything. And, like Judy and Nick get to be at the wedding, and, they're just having, Judy is getting the explanation from Mr. Big. It was like, Otterton was my florist. He was like family. And 2 weeks ago, he told me that he had something important that he needed to talk to me about. And, so I sent a car to get him, and he came back, and, on the way back, he went crazy and he attacked the driver, Monches. And they're just like, well, do you know where Mr. Monches is? And, like, he gives them the address, and they go off to try to find Mr. Monches, and he's this, like, black jaguar. And they, Monches talks to them kind of, and he's very, very scared because like he got attacked by the otter because like Otterton kind of appeared to go savage unfortunately, and scratched him all up, and we see the scratches on his face and everything from Otterton. And this the jaguar has probably been terrified for the last couple of weeks or so since that incident happened, and I wouldn't blame him. He probably hasn't really left his apartment that much. And I would assume Mr. Big is like, no, I understand. You need to go and have some time to yourself just to, try to determine what happened. So you relax then, Mr. Monches. I don't know. Mr. Big might be very good when it comes to employee benefits. I don't know. He tweeted Otterton like family. I'm like, okay, how is a florist like family? I mean, like, I get that he probably did a lot of the designs for your daughter's wedding, and you probably had to find a last-minute florist to, like, help get everything ready for said wedding, after Otterton went and disappeared, but still. And, what ends up happening is Nick and Judy, try to talk, Monches into telling them something, and he's like, Otterton kept yelling something about like the night howlers, and like then unfortunately they do get Monches to like open up, but then he starts going savage and he attacks them, and we get chased through like the rainforest district, and like Judy happens to catch him and trap him, and then her and Nick, she saves Nick, and she gets a hold of the police department, and we'd see Clawhauser using this app that like puts his face on like one of Gazelle's dancers' bodies, and he's just like so happy, and he loves Gazelle. I like Gazelle too a lot in the movie. She's funny. She's good. And she's like, I've got evidence about what's going on and everything, and like the police show up, and Nick and Judy, try to show them where Monches was, but he's gone. And then Judy gets chewed out by Bogo. And Nick kind of notices that Judy, she tried to stand up for him and everything, but unfortunately that didn't necessarily work because, Bogo has like the stereotypical, mistrust of foxes and everything. And, Nick actually, via standing up for them, that he tells them that, she has like, 24 hours left, or 18 or whatever, however many more hours left she has to like, solve this before she has to, hand in her badge and everything and resign. If she doesn't do it because she, went against Bogo's orders. And they head off and they take like the sky tram. And then we get kind of Nick's backstory, which is that, when he was a kid, he was much more happy-go-lucky, and he had wanted to join, like, the Junior Ranger Scouts, and he ended up getting, his mom, got the money to get him a nice, new uniform outfit for it, and he went, and he was going to, join the Scouts and everything, and then they put a muzzle on him, And, that's when he realized that, things aren't as rosy as they appear. And, he gets very sad by that. And that's why he's, no longer, that's why he didn't want to be, that's why he didn't want to, help Judy. And that's where where he became very cynical of the world. And then they realize that they can use the traffic cams that are all over the place to try to figure out where Matches went. And they go to the mayor's office and they interact with Assistant Mayor Bellwether, who is kind of like abused and looked down on by Lionheart, by the mayor. And, she helps them get into the computers and is like, oh, well, here you go. And this is the area and everything. And she goes off and, Judy and Nick look through the cameras and they see that Matches was grabbed by these Timberwolves, and then they start howling, and then Nick and Judy both think that, oh, that means that's what the Night Howlers are, these Timberwolves. And they head off to, they follow the traffic cams and everything. And Nick has to be like, well, this route doesn't go there. It goes over here. So if we go over here and look at this route and everything, he was like, yeah, you would make a pretty good cop type of thing. He's like, nah. And she's like, they get all the information they need of where the Foxes, where the Timberwolves took Matches. And it's like, well, if they took Matches, then they probably took Otterton and these other ones. And they get headed out and they make their way to where this old abandoned hospital, and they have to sneak their way in. Judy tricks the Howlers into, tricks the Timberwolves into howling, because if one howls in another house, and it's just they all start howling and everything, and her and Nick sneak past him, and he calls her a sly bunny and everything, and they get inside, and they find out that this is an old abandoned hospital, and there's the old equipment, and then they find the new equipment, and they find that this is where all of the missing mammals are, and including Otterton and Matches. And they're all basically, acting very savage. They're not, on their hind legs anymore. They're not being, more sophisticated, even to a degree. They're all just, growling and roaring and clawing at their cages, and just, they've gone savage is what it refers to as. And Judy's recording the whole thing with her phone and everything, which is very smart. And she then, then they hear the door open and they have to hide in one of the other cells, and they see that it is Lionheart and this doctor. And the doctor is explaining, it was you can't keep this hidden. And, Lionheart was like, what do you think is going to happen if they find out that all these predators are going wild, and that their mayor is a lion who is a predator? And he's very angry at her and everything. But, it was you expect me to go and tell the city that this is all that's going on? And she's like, well, what about Chief Bogo? And he's like, Chief Bogo doesn't know anything about this. And, the doctors are like, well, it just seems to be the predators that are going savage. And, Nick and Judy then have to escape because Judy's phone starts ringing and it's her parents calling, and then they have to escape via sewer system I love how she does, without even thinking, she pulls this bag out, or a plastic bag, a Ziploc bag that is used for collecting evidence, of course, pulls that out of her pocket and drops her phone in that and seals it, and then probably puts it somewhere else so it's not going to get wet, and then they have to get flushed down this toilet, which is ew. Ew. And they get out and they escape, and then they have to, she calls, ZPD, and we get the cut to Chief Bogo, who is sitting in his office watching the Gazelle app on his phone with him as the dancer with his face on the dancer, which is just funny. And Clawhauser runs in and he's just like, Chief Bogo, Agent Hobbs just broke the case of the missing animals. She found all of them and everything. And we get this great bit that I know is just a line from the app, but Bogo just is huh? And then the app goes, wow, I'm impressed. And I love that joke. And they get, and Bogo and the others went to where, the hospital was, and, Lionheart's arrested and, kind of disgraced and everything. And they get all of the mammals and they take them, they hospitalize them in, more, formal facilities and everything at the actual hospital, so they can try to figure out what's going on with them. And probably, in all honesty, using whatever, information the other doctors at this place had already gathered about them. to try to figure out why they went savage, or if there's a way to make them, not be savage anymore, and to fix them. And one of the things that happens is, Judy then gets put up in front of the put in front of the press at the press conference. But her and Nick had talked, and he's like, okay, so here's what you do. You answer their questions with your own question, and then answer that. And she's like, yeah. And she's like, I also kind of thought that it would be nice to have a partner. And she gives him like an application for being in the police department, and she hands him the carrot pen that has the recording on it, because, it's like, I'll give this back to you if you help me. And she gave it back to him and everything. And, he watches the press conference, and unfortunately, Judy ends up getting asked questions about, is it only predators that are going savage, or, could a bunny go savage, or could a prey go savage, or, all this other stuff. And she's stating what they had heard from the doctor previously. It's like, it does appear to be all of them that are going savage all appear to be, predators, and, it might be something in their genetics. And she's basically repeating what she had heard the doctor say earlier. But Nick is, of course, seeing this and hearing this, and he's like very, gets very distraught about this. And what ends up happening is, after the press conference, Judy is kind of like proud of herself, but then Nick like confronts her, and he's just like, so you think that I would end up wanting, you think that I'm going to just, go savage on you at some point in time. And, he kind of ends up like and I mean, like, in her mind, she probably has like a slight flashback to like Gideon and Gray when they were kids, when like Nick like growls at her and like, seems to get like he's going to attack her. She probably has like a slight flashback to like Gideon and Gray, and she like instantly reaches for her, fox repellent. And he's like, yeah, I knew that you had that there. You don't think I didn't notice that the first time that we met, and that you've had it on you every single day since? And he gets very angry at her, and he goes off, and, she sees that he had actually filled out the police, recruit form, but, he didn't finish filling it out because of what she said. And, we cut to about a week later or so, and we keep getting these more, we get more of this, like, news coverage set up where it's like we have these news anchors that are explaining, it's like, things have been getting worse, and, more and more, animals, predators have been turning more and more savage, and more of them randomly. And, the singer Gazelle held like a rally, a peace rally, and every peaceful protest, to ask Zootopia to try to, fix this and try to stop having everyone fighting with each other. And, we see like a pig yelling at like a leopard or something like that, and, all this other stuff that's going on. And I apologize if I mislabeled some of the bigger cats. But all of them arguing and everything, and like, Judy is like kind of in the middle of it, trying to, calm everybody down. And then of course, she sees that Clawhauser, that Ben, is being moved from being at the front desk into being records, because he's like, they thought that, having someone like me, Predator, as the first face you see when you walk into the police department may not be the best idea. And he's like very sad, and like Judy is very sad too, because he was her friend and everything, and he was like one of the ones that was like very nice to her from the beginning and everything at the police department. And then she has this meeting with Chief Bogo and now Mayor Bellwether, and it's like, we want to have you be the new face of the Zootopia Police Department and everything. And Judy is just like, I don't think I can do that. And she ends up, leaving. And even though she loves Zootopia and she loves working there, but she's like, she can't be a police officer right now anymore, because she's like, I don't feel like I can fix the world, because I feel like I broke it. And Bogo has this great line of like, the world was already broken, Hops. This unfortunately just kind of added to it. And I will state this here, because it's kind of the best place in the video to state this. I know that right now in our country, in regards to when this video will be going up, that there's lots of tensions on the left and on the right and everything, and the police department, with things inside and outside the police department for so many different things. And I'm not going to mention anything specifically, but, it is the police. I've always looked at it as police officers are supposed to do their best to protect and serve. I know people that are police officers, or that have worked with police officers a lot. The few times that I've had to deal with police officers in my life, they have always seemed to be quite, professional in what they do. And I am aware that the way that I interact with police officers is probably quite a bit different than the way that other people have interacted with police officers, and I'm well aware of that. And I do also like that what they do in Zootopia is they don't have any specific species represent a specific race, and I do like that. But I'll say this here: Judy is this. She's this representation of, yes, police are supposed to protect and serve, and she just feels like she broke everything, and I can see why she feels that way. And she goes home back to Bunnyboro, and we cut to like 2 or 3 months later. I don't remember because they don't state exactly how long it is in the movie, but I think we see it like somewhere like on a paper or something, that she's back in Bunnyboro with her parents working on the family farm and selling the carrots and everything like that. And her and her parents seem to be on still on good terms and everything, but Judy is also very depressed at this point in time. And then she sees this baking truck show up, and it's Gideon Gray, and she's like, tell her parents, what's he doing here? And her parents are like, well, we thought we'd take your advice. Gideon has become like one of the best, is like the best baker in like the tri-state or the tri-boroughs area. And, we thought that we would, reach out a hand to him and everything. And now he's one of our business partners and everything. And like they sell him, or they give him the blueberries that he uses in his pies, along with probably some of the other things that he uses in his pies. And then he, brings the pies and they sell them together, or he sells them at his shop, I'm assuming. And, Gideon and, Judy end up kind of talking a little bit, and he apologizes for the way that he acted when they were kids. And he's like, it's like, he's probably been to therapy and probably has learned, why he, treated Judy that way. And he's like, I was treating you that way because I had insecurities about myself, and I'm sorry and everything. Like, she accepts his apology and everything. And I know what it's like to have been bullied as a kid. And, if one of the people that had been an extreme, I didn't have any that were like extreme, like I actually got physically hurt by any of them. But if I had people that had been a bully in the past to me, and if like they came and apologized to me, as long as I knew that they meant it, then that would be very nice. I'll point this out here for like Bakugo and Izuku from My Hero Academia, of course, and I did like a whole video about like their relationship and like Bakugo's apology, of course, several months ago. But what, of course, we see happen is, Gideon apologizes, and like they're just talking, and then like her parents mention, don't go near those flowers or whatever that that are lining around like their vegetable fields to like Judy's like little brothers or sisters. And they're just like, okay. And she's like, well, what about those? It's like, oh, we use them to keep the bugs off the plants and everything. They're not really edible. And like, he gets like this some whatever long name that they're called. And Gideon just goes, oh, we just called them night howlers in my household. And Judy's like, night howlers? What? It's like, yeah, well, just like it's like, oh, they're night howlers. They keep the bugs off the plants or off the veggies and everything. It's just like, what? Night howlers? And that's what the plant was called. That's just the nickname for the plant. And Judy realizes that, oh, that's what they were. And like her parents mentioned, it was like, oh, well, one of those, one of like their cousins or one of their friends or whatever had eaten, like a night howler when they were a kid, and he like bit Judy's mom and like attacked her when they had been kids. And Judy's like, a bunny can go savage, is what we see her realizing. And she's like, oh my god, I have to get back to the police department. I have to get back to Zootopia, and I have to like apologize to Nick. And she kind of technically like steals her parents' carrot truck, which is adorable. She like steals it and she like drives off. And like Gideon's like, did you understand what she said? And they're just like, no. And he's like, good. I thought she was speaking in tongues. And they're just like running, like Judy's driving all the way back to Zootopia. And she drives to where she finds the van that like Nick and Finnick is the name of the smaller fox, because he's a Finnick fox. And they're usually much more on the smaller side than regular foxes. I love Finnick foxes. They are adorable. I have a stuffed one somewhere in this house. It's probably in the closet in my room. I think. It's adorable. And, she finds him, and she's like, I need to find Nick, and I need to apologize to him. And he's like, okay, well, he's here. And she goes and finds him, and he's down on this, by this bridge and everything. And she finds him, and it was like, night howlers aren't the wolves, they're these plants, and they're the problem, and like all this other stuff. And like, she does this whole big, apology to Nick. It was like, I'm sorry for what I said. I'm sorry, and I understand that I was a bad friend. And, I'm sorry, and it's like, after you help me, fix this case, if you don't ever want to talk to me again, and if you're still mad at me, then that's fine, but I'm sorry, and we need to at least do something to solve this and fix what happened. And she's like, and I was a dumb bunny, and I'm sorry. And like, he reveals that he had been like recording the whole time, or recording part of her speech on the pen. And he's like, I'll give this back to you in 48 hours. And like, they hug, and like, the apology is there, and they fix their friendship. And she, and then I was like, okay, well, we need to figure out what's going on here, so we need to find the source. So they go and they find the Nick very much likes the blueberries that like her parents grew, because he's just like, oh, these are really good. And he's like eating them so much on the truck, and I love that. And it's like, she's like, I know, I need to find the source for where they're going, that somehow the Night Howlers are involved. And then they go and they find Duke Weaselton, who is the weasel that she had, arrest before. And he's selling like bootleg DVDs, which I find so funny, because there's so many there's like Disney references in there, because there's like a Tangled one and a Big Hero 6 and Meowna and Wreck-It Rhino and like Frozen 2 and like all this other stuff that are just fun references all over the place, and I love them. And they capture Duke Weaselton or Duke Weaselton, and they take him to Mr. Big, and it's like he's about to ice Duke ice the weasel unless he talks, and he's just like, and the weasel's just like, but why are you working for them? She's a cop. And he's just like, she's also the godmother of my grandchild. And we see the little shrew is pregnant, which now that I realize that it's like 2 to 3 months later, I was like, okay, that makes more sense as to why she's pregnant now, because initially I was just thinking that like Judy had maybe been home for like a week, not like 3 months at this point in time, because I was just like, I hadn't clicked that it was like 2 to 3 months later. And like, she's pregnant. I was just like, I didn't know shrews could get pregnant that fast in like 3 weeks or something like that. It's like, no, it's 2 to 3 months later. Okay, that makes more sense. And the little shrew is pregnant. She's like, I'm going to name her Judy. And Judy's just like, oh, and I love that. She's adorable. I love the little shrew. And the weasel talks, and he's like, okay, fine, I can tell you where the Night Howlers go. They go to this guy named Doug Rams, and he's the opposite of a friendly sheep. He's unfriendly. I'm like, okay. Unfriendly, the best word you can come up with there? But like, they find him, and he's in like this underground, the subway system. He's like in an abandoned train car in the subway system. And they make their way there, and it's this whole like lab setup where he's growing the Night Howlers and then like distilling them and like making these little dart gun type things that he can use. And we see him get a call, and it was like, okay, just Cheetah and Sahara Square or whatever, shoot them, make them go savage and everything. And we see that he's the one that every single one of the other ones, he's the one that shot them and everything, including Otterton and Monches and all the other ones so far that have all gone savage. He's the one that shot each of them with this dart to make them go savage from the Night Howler stuff. And then we get like a fun Breaking Bad reference, which I love, because he's like, oh, I gotta go. Walt and Jesse are here, which is huge Breaking Bad reference. I have never seen Breaking Bad, but I get some of the references. And they get Judy and Nick then basically steal the train car, and there's this whole like train car subway chase type of thing, which is just so funny, and it's so fun to watch, because like there's one of the Rams that's trying to keep knocking them out and getting into the vehicle, and like they get thrown off, and there's like running around on the tracks and like all this other stuff, and I just love the chase sequence here. It's just so fun. And like the train gets blown up, but like Judy and Nick had like saved, Nick had managed to save like the case that had like the dart gun in it. And they're running around, and they end up running into the Natural History Museum or so that's there. And like she called Clawhauser, Chief Bogo, to tell them, it was like, oh, I found this information and blah 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 blah, and we found this stuff. And they get into there, and then they run into Mayor Bellwether, who is somehow there. And it's just like, oh, how did you find us? And she's like, oh, that's not important. Come on, give me the suitcase and we'll go. And we'll get all that information there and everything. And then it's like, we get the whole reveal of like, no, Bellwether's the one that's been the villain the whole time. She's the one that's helped like orchestrate this whole plan of getting herself to being mayor, so she has more power. And, Nick and Judy have to run through the museum while they're hiding, and, like, Judy gets hurt, and, like, they have to end up coming up with this whole big master plan that they have, this plan that they have to do to try to, like, hustle Bellwether, of course, out of the information. And, Nick and Judy end up in, like, this, like, pit area for, like, one of the, exhibits, and Bellwether appears to have shot Nick with one of the darts that's going to make him go savage, and Nick then appears to go savage, and he attacks Judy, and Bellwether is like monologuing, of course, because villains monologue when they think they win. I guess that's just like villain 101. It's just like, if you're going to be a Disney villain, if you're going to be a villain in general, you have to monologue at some point. You'd think the villains would learn at this point in time is just don't monologue and just stay there and make sure that whoever you want dead dies. Several months ago, my dad and I watched through like the Sean Connery, because after Sean Connery died, we watched through the Sean Connery James Bond movies. And at some point, we may watch some of the other ones. But, we watched through those ones, and it's just like various points in time where it's just like, if the villain had just stayed around to make sure that James Bond had died, or just, not killed him in such a, extravagant manner, and just like shoot him. Just literally shoot him in the heart like 10 times, and his lungs, and you'll probably kill him, because there's so much that he can come back from, but that's kind of hard to come back from. So, you'd think the villains would learn a thing or two about that. And I get that it's a Disney movie, so you can't have the villains be, oh, the villains are definitely going to win, because you can't have the villain win in a Disney movie. Why would you want that? Well, Scar technically wins for a long time in The Lion King, because he is king. But, Bellwether, like, monologues, and, like, Nick pretends to, like, attack Judy, and then she, we get the call back to, like, the play where, like, she got attacked, and then she goes, like, pretends to go blood everywhere and everything. It's just funny. She's, like, overacting. And then Nick reveals that, oh, he's not savage. And Bellwether's just like, but wait, what? And they, like, she, like, looks inside the gun, and she sees that they replaced the darts with the blueberries, because they happen to be very similar in color, and, it's dark in the building, and Bellwether wouldn't have noticed that. And, they had, she shot Savage with that, and then Judy had also used her recorder pin to record Bellwether confessing, basically, to everything. And then we do this pan out, and we see that the other members of the ZPD are there. And, Bellwether had actually been the one to call the ZPD, actually, I think. So she called the ZPD on herself by saying, oh, there's this savage fox in the museum, and it's chasing Officer Hops around, and, all this other stuff. I need help quickly. And, the Zootopia, the ZPD have arrived, and, Bogo had heard a large amount of the confession along with the rest of the officers and everything. So Bellwether's arrested, and they're able to then use the Night Howler serum to then develop a cure for the other Night Howler victims, because they didn't have, like, the source of the problem, and now they know what they've been using to make them go crazy. And so, we get, like, this kind of wrap-up sequence where we see, Otterton is fixed, and him and his wife are, of course, reunited and everything, because, like, he hadn't been, she hadn't really been able to be around him, because he had still been going savage and everything. Lionheart is like, yeah, I didn't know about everything, but I'm still here and everything. And, it's like a little bit more fame for him. And, Bogo reinstates Judy as a police officer. And we cut to, we get this nice speech by Judy, which is just like the end quote on this. And what ends up happening is, it's revealed that, they're able to fix all the mammals that were, gone savage and everything, and get them all better. And, Nick then goes through the police academy, the ZPD police academy. Never actually seen the police academy movies. I don't really want to. Side note. But, Nick graduates from that, and she's, Judy's the one that does, like, the big speech at the end, the awards ceremony and everything for the graduation. I was like, we never get an answer, I don't think we ever get an answer as to whether or not Nick's mom is still around. I would assume she might be, and it might have been that, like, Nick grew up in Zootopia. But his, and, like, his mom might still be around. She just may not 100% know what he does for a living. But he probably would still give her like a fair amount of money to make sure that she was comfortable because he loves his mom. From the little bits that we see of her, from the tiny bits that we see in the flashback, he loved his mom, and I don't think he ever told her about what happened with the other junior ranger scouts. But Bellwether's arrested and everything, and Judy does a big speech, and then like her and her and Nick so many months later, now teamed up. Actually, I think it's months later, and it's about a year after Judy started her job at the ZPD. So it's about a year after kind of the beginning of the movie where we get her graduating and everything. Because Nick had to go through like all the whole training of everything of becoming becoming a police officer and everything. And then we cut to they're at the police station and everything in the bullpen, and Bogo's giving out all the different, charges and everything, all the different, things for the day. And he's just like, and we have our first fox. Not that I care. And like now we've kind of known that like, no, Bogo likes Judy and Nick, as he's seen that they can do what they're supposed to do. They can be very good police officers. And what ends up happening is, of course, he gives them this. I love we get this background joke in the movie, and I didn't grab the screen caps for it, but it's funny because like we get this wolf in sheep's clothing joke because like one of the officers, I think it's Fangmeyer, who's this wolf, like has like this sheep costume that he puts on, and it looks really good because he's supposed to go be a sheep undercover because a wolf in sheep's clothing, and how can you miss that joke in a Zootopia movie about animals? So why wouldn't you do that? And Nick and Judy get put on this like there's this speed racer that's been running around the angrily that's been running around in downtown area or whatever, and they go there and they try to find him, and like when they're in the car on the way there, Nick does the whole, oh, you love me, and Judy's like, do I know I love you? Yes, I do. And and like they find the speedster and they pull him over, and it's Flash, the the sloth. And I'm assuming he gets arrested or whatever. But then we get to like the end of the movie is of course this big Gazelle gives a concert and everybody's happy and dancing and everything, and all of the other kids, all we get to see basically a roll call of the whole cast and everything. We see Gazelle dancing, and we cut in and out of her performance and everything. And we see Nick and Judy are there, and like Mr. Big and the daughter are there. And, Judy's, I don't know if Judy's parents are there or if they just get like, they show them at another point in time. But, it's like Gazelle, and like we see Chief Bogo and, Clawhauser like dancing and everything, which is just funny. And we see all this other stuff, and like we see Bellwether is in jail and everything. And, all the other, prisoners are, just like happily enjoying the concert. Bellwether's just like, and it's revealed that it was, Bellwether's plan was to, have all of the prey animals be against all of the, all of the predator animals, which I'm just like, you already outnumber them 10-1. And, they're not eating you. They're not trying to attack you. So what is your problem with them? I never understood what Bellwether's problem was. She just wanted to keep herself in power, basically. Get herself to be mayor, and then whether or not she decided she wanted to do that before or after she became assistant mayor, or it was just based on how Mayor Lionheart, treated her, I don't know. But of course, we get the whole big performance with Gazelle, and that's the end of the movie. Now we'll go into the cast. So, cast, we have Jennifer Goodwin as Judy Hopps, who, that is why I am wearing my Snow White shirt for this video, because Jennifer Goodwin is, of course, Snow White in Once Upon a Time. I've talked about her a few times. And I love her, and she's great. And my mom and I are still working our way through Once Upon a Time at this point. Not at the time that I'm recording this video. We are currently at the part where all of them are in the underworld, or the Underbrook area at the moment, trying to deal with Hades, trying to get Hook back. And then, of course, we have Jason Bateman as Nick. We have Idris Elba as Chief Bogo. Love him. He's, of course, Heimdall in Thor and been in a whole bunch of other movies. We have Jenny Slate as Bellwether, who she's just a comedian. I don't remember exactly what else she's been in. I want to say Broad City, but I could be wrong about that. We have Nate Torrance as Clawhauser. We have Bonnie Hunt as Bunny Hopps, as Bonnie Hopps. We have Don Lake as Stu Hopps, who's, of course, Judy's mother and father. We have Tommy Chung as Yax, who is the very laid back owner of the Mystic Springs Oasis type thing. We have J.K. Simmons as Mayor Lionheart, who, of course, he's in the Allstate ads, and I think he's been J. Jonah Jameson in all three of the different Spider-Man versus the Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield, and now the Tom Holland. We have Octavia Spencer, love her, as Mrs. Otterton. We have Alan Tudyk as Duke Weaselton, who is, of course, he's he's King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph. He's in Frozen as the Duke. He's he's been like in a lot of the last several Disney movies. We have Shakira as Gazelle, and we have Tony Tiny Lister as Finnick, and we have Maurice LaMarche as Mr. Big. Maurice LaMarche, think Brain from Pinky and the Brain. Just think that, because that's who he is. He's also in Futurama as a few different characters, if I remember correctly. And then we have trivia. Okay, so I wanted to mention Judy's roommates. So we are next door neighbors. So we have Bucky and Prong Orax Antlerson, who are the first LGBT characters in Disney animated canon. They're, of course, her neighbors in the movie, and they're just stated to be loud and obnoxious. And I think they're voiced by the directors of the film. I think they're voiced by the co-directors of the film, and they're the now has Disney, of course, has now branched out into more characters that are LGBTQ type stuff with Pixar, and with different Marvel characters, and with, of course, Star Wars and such like that. Then, of course, we have throughout Zootopia, they have numerous animal parodies of real life companies and everything. We have Lululemons, which is, of course, Lululemon for the sweatpants. We have Just Zoo It, which is Just Do It for the Nikes. We have Prada, or Prada for Prada. We have Vanity Fur instead of Vanity Fair. We have Bearbury instead of Burberry. We have DNKY instead of DKNY. I don't exactly know what that is. I think it's supposed to be donkey, I think. We have Snarlbucks instead of Starbucks. We have Zoogle instead of Google. We have Targot instead of Target. We have some of the smartphone features are like, Apple Inc. and iPhones and stuff like that, or iPaw instead. We have ZNN for Zootopia News Network instead of CNN. We have Mousies instead of Macy's. We have Little Chops instead of Lucky Chomps instead of Lucky Charms, which is a cereal. We have Muzzle Time instead of FaceTime. We have Trader Joe's instead of Trader Joe's. We have Hoof Locker instead of Foot Locker. We have Mullux instead of Rolex. I don't exactly know what that references to. We have PB&J instead of TNT. We have Lehman Brothers Bank, which is Lehman Brothers. We have ITREEA instead of IKEA. Itria. We have Zuber instead of Uber, which I noticed. We have Star Trunk instead of Star Trek. And we have Casio instead of Casio, which produces calculators and keyboards, I guess. And then on Judy's playlist, which I love all the jokes they throw on the playlist, we have it's a 6th generation iPod Nano is what it's referencing. And she has, the Beatles are the Beagles, Fleetwood Mac is Fleetwood Yak, Foo Fighters is Fur Fighters, Guns N' Roses is Guns and Rodents, Selena Gomez is Hyena Gomez, Kanye West is Canine West, and Mick Jagger is Mick Jaguar. So I love all those jokes that they throw in there. It's like, It's a fun reference thing, and I love it. And many of the events of the movie reflect different types of civil rights movements throughout the 1960s. Gazelle protesting. The return to Zootopia of the ordinary state reflects various nonviolent protests that, of course, happened at that point in time. The prejudice that the ZPD, particularly Bogo, have against, weaker prey and, Judy and Nick and everything like that. Are of course similar to the racists against Black or African Americans and many other minorities, of course. Not one like specifically referencing a specific other one. Like the Foxes don't specifically, aren't a specific reference to a specific other race, like Black or Asian or whatever. But it's just that those reference stereotypes that prejudice that's there. And then of course at the beginning of the film during Nick's ice cream parlor scene, Jerry Jumbucks Jr. Is with the right to refuse service to anyone is a reference to something else. Different restaurants in different areas would of course refuse to serve people of color. Which is again some other things that are getting very interesting in regards to the way that things that are happening in the world currently when this video is coming out. Other things that I like about the movie is, of course, we have like all these other references. Of course, Gazelle is a reference to Shakira because Shakira plays Gazelle, as I mentioned earlier. There's quite a few other little references that get thrown here and there for that. And I wanted to point this out because I didn't actually have it listed there, but the guy that plays the pig that was like the flower shop owner that like yells at Judy to go and catch the weasel is played by Josh Dallas, who I mentioned this in the Snow White video so many months ago. That Josh Dallas, who of course plays Prince Charming, both Prince Charming and his evil twin on Once Upon a Time, is of course in real life married to, Jennifer Goodwin, who plays Snow White in Once Upon a Time, and they met playing those characters, and they fell in love playing those characters, and they actually got married, and then in the show they had a baby, and then in real life they had a baby. Art imitating life type of thing. As we get all of that, and I love that. And one of the other things that we see, of course, throughout Zootopia is how they were going to do Zootopia. There have been so many different ideas for how they wanted to do Zootopia. They knew at the heart of it they wanted to do a story about, animals and clothes. And like John Lasseter was, of course, like, I'm fully behind you for the animals and clothes concept, but you got to get me the right story. So there were like so many other types of names that they had come up for it. And here are some of the others, like Savage Jungle, Savage Ocean, Savage, whatever else. And like in regards to like designing the world, they went actually to Africa and of course went and like interacted with like saw all these different types of animals that are there and like talked to the zoo handlers and stuff like that and the animal handlers at like Disney's, Jungle Kingdom, and like all these other places. In Africa, and then of course in Disney World and Disneyland itself, they would go to those or go to different zoos and stuff like that, and like see these different animals and like how they would interact with each other, or like get a good idea of like, oh well, that type of animal would be good to have like this type of a gag, or that would be good for this, or let's put the sloths in the DMV. Which is, I think, more of a adult joke for, because I mean, not as an adult, as in like, oh, it's a mature joke. It's like kids don't necessarily know that the DMV is like considered to be very slow. I've been to the DMV multiple times, and barring the time that I had to go during like COVID for something with my mom for like me getting her car, most of the times when I've been to the DMV, it hasn't really been that bad. But I just try to go at a better time of the day. But that's just me. But so we get they had, all these different stories, and like initially the story had been more from Nick's point of view, and they had these things on all the predators that were called tame collars, that were like shock collars on the predators that like whenever they would get too anxious or too excited, it would shock them. And we had like they had like all this development on that same type of concept and like building this world, and they still built Zootopia, and Zootopia itself kind of ended up being pretty similar. But they had to like shift the story around because it was like if it's through Nick's eyes, then you're already kind of like cynical and pessimistic about this world. But if you're Judy and you're coming into this world with like all this hope and everything that you like, that you want to see in this world, coming at it from Judy's point of view, and then Nick is probably still kind of cynical to a degree, and it is, I believe it is stated specifically. It's never stated specifically in the movie, but I think it is stated specifically by the directors that yes, Nick and Judy are supposed to be a couple by the end of the movie, which I'm fine with. I like Nick and Judy. I ship that. Yeah, I ship that. And so I just love how they do all that, and like they had all these different character designs that they had to come up with, and like keep the animals in proportion, because like with Robin Hood, yeah, they had like the mice be really small, but like the elephants weren't as huge compared to like the foxes as they would be in normal life. And same thing with like the rhinos, and same thing with like the bears in comparison to like the foxes or the mice or like all these other smaller animals. Not that I don't love Robin Hood, I still love Robin Hood, the Disney version, along with some of the other ones. Men in tights. But I just, with Zootopia, they wanted to make sure that it's like they move the same way that animals would normally move, and they're the right scales for everything. And, it's like, oh, well, we have all this, fabric, it's like designing clothes and everything like that. It was like, well, you would use so much fabric to make like the shirt for a giraffe or a rhino and everything like that. But then, you'd still have all this fabric left over, and you can use that fabric to then make like the clothes for like the little rodents, for like the little shrews or the mice or whatever. And like I love that concept, how they how they adjust that and everything, and they had the design, Zootopia was like, we have the Sahara here, and like we have the tundra area on the other side, and like the melting stuff goes into the rainforest, and like all this other stuff that I just love how they like designed all of that, and like, oh, this would work best here, and this would go here, and this would go over here, and I love that. End of story. Okay, that's where I'm gonna finish this. Okay, so yeah, I love Zootopia. I love the soundtrack for it. I love the song, Try Everything. I love the song at the end of the movie. I love it throughout the course of the movie. I love the music video that goes along with it. I do like Shakira. And it's just a fun song. Yeah, that's what I have. The next video, I do think Moana is the next one. It's either Moana or Ralph Breaks the Internet, but I think it's Moana and then Ralph Breaks the Internet, if I remember correctly, because Moana is in Ralph Breaks the Internet. So yeah, it should be Moana and then Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then Frozen 2, and then Raya and the Last Dragon should be the last four for the Disney animated ones. And then I kind of don't know exactly what I'm going to do after that. I'm going to wait a little bit before I do Pixar, but I might do some other miscellaneous Disney ones in there. So that's what I have. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye! When I was a kid, I thought Zootopia was this perfect place where everyone got along and anyone could be anything. Turns out real life is a bit more complicated than a slogan on a bumper sticker. Real life is messy. We all have limitations. We all make mistakes, which means, hey, glass half full. We all have a lot in common. The more we try to understand one another, the more exceptional each of us will be. But we have to try. So no matter what type of animal you are, from the biggest elephant to our first fox, I implore you, try. Try to make the world a better place. Look inside yourself and recognize that change starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with all of us.